Welcome back to We Are Already Free, dear listener. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you here. And if you are someone who gives and gives and gives to others, you support, you heal, you lift people up, but sometimes, or a lot of the time, something feels off because there's never enough left for you. Does this sound familiar? Because right now, healers, givers, facilitators, teachers, and guides are burning out faster than ever. When we can't receive, we limit our ability to serve others deeply and authentically. Never fear, because today you will discover how to break free from that scarcity consciousness, how to learn and how to harmonize giving and receiving in a way that serves both you and those you help. Our guest today is the very wonderful Keri Nola, who brings over a decade of her experience as a licensed psychotherapist. And she retired from that in 2017 and transitioned to being a global mentor, guide, author, and podcaster. She now supports therapists, healers, and the spiritually aware entrepreneurs in transmuting fear, activating their purpose, and harmonizing giving and receiving in alignment with divine will. So you are very much in the right place if any of this is resonating with you. Thank you for being here. It's an honor, and I'm super excited about this episode with Keri. When you hear the words, "we are already free," what comes up for you?
Acceptance.
Change.
A shift in awareness.
Human beings are so powerful.
There's so much more.
Everything is love behind it.
Breaking the chains of your own mind.
That which remains.
Nature.
Getting out of the matrix.
We're sitting on the treasure and it's already unlocked.
We are already free.
You're free.
You are a walking map.
Have always been free.
You are always free, already free.
We are already free.
Hello and welcome to the podcast, Keri. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Nathan. It's wonderful to be with you.
Thanks. Joining me even very early in your morning, which I deeply appreciate. As an early riser myself, I find it hard to empathize with people when they're like, "It's so early in the morning." I'm like, "What do you mean? It's late. It's almost the middle of the day."
I used to say I wasn't a morning person, but I actually realized I just needed to do certain things in the morning to honor my body, my mind, my spirit, and then I'm good to go. It doesn't matter the time. It more matters how I'm treating myself and showing up for the day.
Interesting. I mean, we could do an entire series of podcast episodes just on that because I love early mornings. And I think that actually, like, as a morning person and as someone who appreciates morning ritual, it's something that, anyway, like I said, I could talk about way too much. So yeah, I also read something a while ago, and I don't want to freak out the people who think they're night owls, but I did read that there's been research that shows that even when people think they're night owls, they actually do way better if they shift their clocks back to circadian rhythms. So anyway, sorry to all the night owls out there, but what was that? I mean, I want to get into the meat and you know, the core of this episode, but I'm also now very curious, and I like to follow that curiosity. What was the thing that shifted for you around being a morning person or not? Like, when you say you needed to do stuff in the morning, what did you need to do?
I need to breathe and move slowly and intentionally. Particularly, my body just loves to move in the morning. So, and it's not necessarily like a workout, but I have a hyper vibe and I get my lymph flowing. I have my infrared sauna and I hop in there and get things pumping and moving and detoxing from the day before and starting fresh. So really, that's been my morning ritual, is hyper vibing, getting the lymph flowing and getting in the sauna.
I love that term, hyper vibing. Is that like an actual term for something?
Yeah, it's a vibrating plate that is sometimes used for working out. It helps to stabilize the core if you do squats on it or lunges, but I use it to drain the lymph. My lymphatic system is my slowest moving drainage pathway, and so it helps me to just get things moving. So you stand on it and it moves at varying speeds and gets things going.
Well, that's a great name aside from I mean, it sounds amazing as well, but hyper vibing, I'm like, I immediately want to have that in my life. I don't even know what that is, but I want to do it.
Great marketing.
Yeah.
No, we're not even sponsors. Maybe
Yeah,
they can sponsor your show.
I need to get an affiliate link going immediately. Well, we've been connected through one of my favorite people, through Matthew Cook, he's been a guest twice on this podcast already. And I just completed his B3 body-based breakthrough somatic coach training quite recently and just had such a good time there. And one of the good things was coming across you and your work. And, for a little bit of context for the listener, I need this work. I think this is the work that's currently, like I've done, as we do in life, we spiral up through the different stages and phases of our experiences. And in my case, having worked through so many different layers of my own journey, the one that is coming into me and at me at full pace is this thing around abundance and money and making enough and being a provider, especially now as a new father and wanting to show up fully as a father, a husband, a provider for my family, and yet still having this experience of scarcity in my life. So yeah, you're speaking to me directly. I am your target market. And I imagine that many of the people listening are the same, these givers, these sensitive people who are like, I just want to help. I just want to serve to the world and give and give. And then so many of us just burn out and end up needing to take more because we've emptied ourselves. So I'm curious to know, as someone who supports others in this, was this ever your story? Because I do find that's quite often the case in these kind of scenarios. And I'm just curious to hear a bit more about your story or what got you into this in the first place.
Absolutely. I never teach or share anything that isn't embodied wisdom for me. It feels like I can only take people as far and deep and wide as I myself have gone. So yes, I was in a feast and famine cycle with money for a very, very long time. I had a very successful psychotherapy practice and healing center for many years, but I would call it expensive money. So what it was costing me to make that money was a lot on my nervous system. Not only the depth of work that I was doing, but also it was like working hard, and then I would get sick, and then there would be this gap in the flow of resources and abundance. And so then I would hustle again, and then I'd get sick, and then there would be a gap, and I would be out of it. So what I noticed was I didn't have a hard time receiving. I had a hard time holding resources. And those are two different qualities that I like to talk about in my work, because some people have no problem letting it come in, but then it goes out really quickly. And so those are two different frequencies or pathways, capacities that we need to train. And I believe it was 2014, it was New Year's Eve, and I was just fed up. I was tired. I was behind on my mortgage payment. Just at my wit's end. And I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions because I find that they require a lot of like willpower, and it's like what our ego wants, not necessarily what it's time for. But I really got down on my knees in a really prayerful moment and way and said, this has to stop. Like, what am I missing? I know I'm meant for more, please show me the way. And I don't remember exactly, but something inspired me to begin journaling with my money, getting into relationship with it. And so daily for a year, I committed to communicating with my cash. I hate you. Where the fuck are you? What is going on here? I'm showing up. Where are you? I need more of you. And just watching and tracking like how it was in me to relate to this resource. And as I began, more started showing up, and more was able to stay for longer periods of time. And after doing that practice for 1 year, it worked so well and it felt so good that I did it for another year daily. And at the end of those 2 years, things had shifted. It wasn't perfect. My debt wasn't all paid off, but there was more room. And I could tell that I wasn't going to go back to that place. And since that time, we're now 10 years, 11 years later, things are different. There's overflow, there's the capacity to hold, there's more trust in the way that I'll be provided for and met and taken care of by life. I don't make my clients responsible for paying my bills, by desperately making offers when I need something. So yes, been there, continue to be there, and in different ways. I feel like I love what you said, the upward spiral. Just there's always more of us to be, more of our essence to radiate and express and experience through life. And I'm on the journey too, just perhaps at a different place than I was back then.
Yeah, I went through I downloaded your initial money journal workbook, and I think it's a workbook with just like prompts around the questions. Or actually, I think it was going through the workshop you facilitated in the B3 thing. And I don't want to almost give too much away here because there was such a profound moment in there. I don't know if it's something you generally like don't tell people until they've gone through it, but there was a moment. I'm like working out how I can say this without saying it, because basically it's like going through these prompts and these questions, and then you ask a reframing question, or you make a reframing kind of like invitation towards the end of the journaling part. And it was crazy how accurate that was. I don't know. I don't want to like give it away. So if someone is listening, I will be sure to link. I don't know if there's a download of that anywhere that people can get access to or something.
My money journal is a freebie on my website. However, I don't actually get into that piece of it there. So
Okay.
I'm happy to do a little spoiler alert. I love how moved you were by it. And
okay, let's do a little spoiler. It was like I actually don't want to do a spoiler because it was so good for me. Like, I think people just need to go and get it as a freebie on your site, and then if they want like to go deeper, they need to talk to you or something, because it was just like an important moment, I think, because it almost would have changed the exercise for me if I'd known the twist that came in later beforehand. So for me, it was quite an important thing to not know what was coming. So yeah.
And the reason I didn't include it, and I love where you're going with this, and one of my values is to be very responsible with this work. I feel like there's a lot of get rich quick schemes and do these 5 things and you're going to, have $1 million or 6 figures, next week. And while that can be true in some cases, what I find with highly sensitive beings, which are typically the ones like us that are drawn to the healing, the helping, the consciousness work, it requires more than that. And the reason I didn't include this particular piece in the journal is because people are doing this on their own without any facilitation, without any guidance, without any capacity to, commune with me or someone else around it. And it didn't feel ethical or responsible because it can take you deep and it can take you there fast. And if you're not familiar with that terrain, I don't want you sitting there alone with that without any holding or support that could really be required when you access that moment of, oh, I see what this is actually about.
All right, amazing. Okay, well, I think we've teased that enough. So I'll put the link into your site and people can download the freebie. And then if they want to take that next deeper step, which I do very much recommend, then they can reach out to you and hop into your membership or however they want to take that forward. So for now, I'm curious to hear, because obviously as someone working in, and I actually have a bit of discomfort around the word healer. That's something I'm still working on, because I don't think anyone's healing anyone. It's not, we're mirroring each other. We're reflecting each other. We're walking each other home, as Ramdas said so beautifully. So saying all of that, I'm curious to know, as someone who has worked with those in the healing space, those who are the facilitators and space holders, what are the patterns you see in those people, and those people like us who struggle to either receive or, as you said, to hold on to the receiving, who then have to get sick or let it all go so that they come back into a state of whatever they're accustomed to? Like, what are those patterns that you see playing out again and again?
Yeah. At the root of all of the patterns, it's really related to, do I believe that I'm worth having this? And there's a lot of representations of that. Is it safe to have this? What does it say about me that I want this? is it okay to exchange these resources for this sacred work? And I'm with you, Nathan, on the healer and what's in there. And I think I'm glad that you brought it up, because I feel like it's a part of the pattern. It's like everyone needs healing. And because of that, what happens if it's not accessible because I'm charging for it? And then does that mean that I'm leaving people out, or that I'm doing something wrong, or that the work loses its sacredness? And these are all of the conversations that we get into to find the truth inside of that.
Yeah. That resonates so deeply with me. This is something I don't think I've spoken much about on the podcast, or really a massive amount at all, because I'm still not really sure how to talk about it. But maybe now is an opportunity to at least open the door to more conversation around this, or dialogue around this. And it is, so for myself, I speak for myself. So I am a middle-class, white, English-speaking man who in many ways has never had to face some of the trials and tribulations that the vast majority of people in the world experience in our current societal structure. And as someone from South Africa, and again, I don't want to minimize what I have been through. Like it's not a thing of saying, well, I've just had it easy. I have not had it easy. I have my own lineage of wounding that goes back many, many generations. And I can tell all the victim stories that go back, it's not about that, but there is an acknowledgement in me that no matter how bad things have got for me, I could always call someone and ask for help, for resources, for some kind of like, hey, like, come stay with me, I'll support you, or whatever it is. Like, I've never been in that space of, I don't know, when I'm living in a shack in amongst tens of thousands of other shacks, and there's just like open sewage running down the street outside, and my entire family is hooked on alcohol, and I'm trying to work my way through that, like and that probably will never be my experience. And so within that context, there is this part of me, and I'm becoming more aware of it, this part of me that does feel guilt and shame around being in this position of power. Who am I to have so much and to then ask for even more, to say, okay, I want to make $10,000 a month as a transformational guide and supporting other people on this path? What would it mean in our society if I do end up being in that position? What does it mean that I have to extract even more from this world and from this society? And so again, I'm saying this without any answers, but these are the things that I'm noticing that are like swimming around under the surface, and that I don't really have a good answer for right now. So I'm just curious to hear what this brings up for you. And thank you for listening.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for bringing this in, because you and I share similarity there as far as what we've experienced, and what is scarce to me or to you is very different than what might be scarce to another. And I feel like that's the biggest delusion that we are sorting here on the planet, because the truth is we're all here having a different experience. Our soul is on a different path, and because of that, it looks like we are worthy of different things, right? But the truth is, we came here and we separated from spirit, and we're all having these different experiences, but yet at the soul level, what there's a remembrance of is that we're all worthy of all of it. Because one person has more than another, it doesn't mean we're more or less worthy. It means our soul, in my viewpoint, it came here to have a different experience. And we're trying to sort that out, to digest that, to make sense of it. And that's part of Earth School in my limited, experience and perspective. What I've done with that is, how does it help those who are in deep suffering if we have the capacity to generate more and we don't do it, right? If our soul came here, what's interesting to me is that, and you read it in my bio, in alignment with divine will. I'm not saying let's all go out and be multimillionaires and get yachts and have whatever just to have it. I'm saying you came here to express and experience something specific as a soul in form. And it is your job and mission to complete that, to discover what that is, and to fully live as that. So that's what is interesting to me. One of the mantras that came through my work is thank you, more please. And I find that's really challenging for a lot of us to say, like, oh, I have enough, thank you. No, but do you have what is yours to have? Do you have what is yours to have? And if the answer is no, then that more please is not just your ego grabbing or wanting greedily. It's you, your soul, reaching and leaning toward what you're here to manifest. And I don't say that in the airy fairy way. I say to make real in this experience what is meant for you. Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear my little baby giving
I
a little wail in the
can.
background.
She's like, yes, resonating.
Let's go. She's like, hungry, more please.
Speak it, Dad. And I love this, because if you think of a child, right, they are always moving in alignment with their needs and their wants, right? She's not thinking like, well, I just had milk, and so I don't know. She's like, screw that, like more milk. And I don't care that I just had some, and I don't care if mom's tired or dad wants to take a nap. I want food, and my body needs that. And so I'm going to cry out for that. And I think that speaks to the truth underneath all the conditioning and patterning that we have. We have forgotten how to want, how to desire, how to admit those things. And part of the reason we have those desires, if they are in alignment with divine will, is because they're true. It's true to have that thing that we are desiring. And yeah, we could go in a lot of directions here, but I'm curious how that's landing.
No, I appreciate that very much. And you reminded me of a thing I've noticed at times, that I have met people many times across the world in all different kinds of travels and spaces who have been in positions that I would, and there's multiple layers to this and I will get into it. But like, for example, there might be a guy who is here in Cape Town. In South Africa, we have car guards. So any parking lot you go to in South Africa, for anyone who doesn't know, who's listening right now, you'll find that there'll be someone there who will offer to watch your car for you. And this has become a thing across South Africa because there's such a huge thing of people unemployed who need money, and also a high crime rate relative to many other places. So there's this like gap that's been filled by these car guards who generally, if something's going to happen to your car, they're not really going to do much generally. Like your car, So, but there they are, and by many accounts, like if I judge that from a perspective of, oh, I wouldn't want to have a life like that, that looks really difficult. That's also me projecting an idea of right or wrong onto something else. And that's like a part of what I do notice in myself, is this idea of, well, it shouldn't be that way, or it should be that way. And that in itself creates friction. But then at another layer, I've met some of those guys who are so happy and who are emanating joy in such a way that just by meeting them, I mean, my day is immediately shifted for the better. And what and it's the same with waiters, or with petrol attendants, or with people at the airport, at customs, like these people who are in jobs that are quite repetitive, generally don't get a huge amount of love. And I noticed some of those people seem to have understood something that those who are driving a Ferrari around have yet to realize. And what they've realized is that they are where they are, and that they're completely engaged in it. And by doing that, they themselves are having an incredible experience, like an amazing experience. And so I think that's one of the things I do remind myself of, is like, it's actually, I'm almost persecuting someone else by thinking that they're in a situation worse than me, because I don't actually know what their situation is. And by me judging it, I sort of decrease the value of the experience that they're having. Does that make sense?
Completely. And and we all do this. We project onto them. And the reason you're not thrilled with what's happening for them is because you wouldn't want that happening for you, not necessarily for any reason other than it's not yours to experience. And we assume that they want to be experiencing what we're experiencing, and they might, but they also might not. And I love what you're naming. You know, when we don't have a lot of extra things, there's a spiritual experience where we can really appreciate life and joy. And there's been studies done that say, you know, I think it's gone up now because of life and cost of living. But, you know, at one point it was like people that make $75,000 a year were happiest. You know, the happy factor didn't get much more beyond this point. And I find that really interesting because we think more, happy, 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 but more doesn't necessarily equate to happy, nor does it equate to financial safety. Like, that's different work. You know, if you think you're going to feel safer or more secure when you have more resources, I've never met anyone who's had that experience. I have friends that are multimillionaires and they are terrified of losing it, even though they have plenty, and they still fear that one decision could take them out and they wouldn't have the money that they need to live and to survive. So it's different work. It's not just making more or having more. It's that paired with the inner work that's required to feel safe, period, to feel secure, period, to trust life has you, period. And
this is such a powerful, there's something here that I would love to explore a bit more, and that is around this idea of if or when. You know, if I make enough, or when I make more, or when I pay off my debt, then I will feel this thing that I'm wanting to feel. And this is something I speak for myself. I feel that a lot. It's something I still am aware of in myself. And so I'm wondering, because I've been having a few conversations with people, and even though many people are exactly what you expressed, some people have relatively high paying jobs and they're so-called, by all accounts, you know, doing well, they're successful, and yet they're still actually in debt, or they're still actually living in the state of fear. And so from that perspective, if someone, for example, is overdrawn on all their accounts, the credit cards are maxed out, they're listening to this right now, they're like, yeah, it's easy for you to say, you know, you've, whatever the story is that they have about why it's okay for you to be saying what you're saying. But like, that person who's in that position, do you feel like someone in that position can still feel safe? Is that really actually possible?
I think in moments, and we can expand those moments, absolutely. And I think the way that we have our society set up right now, it makes that very, very difficult. Can you find moments of peace? Can you train and work with the nervous system to find safety from moment to moment? Absolutely. I mean, we have that freedom and that ability. Are we set up in a way that makes that easy or likely? No. You know, so I think it really depends on someone's level of devotion to inner work as a practice. Like, and what I'll say is, when you're willing to practice feeling safe, you also become more open and available to what is for you, which is why my work is partnered so closely with the nervous system, because you can't just want more. You can't just get clear about what you want and then it just appears. Sorry to burst the manifestation bubbles that many of us have been thrown at us. Just make your vision board and all will come. And it's like, that is a practice, and it's best partnered with many other practices and perspectives to work meaningfully.
Could we go into that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people still are a bit confused about manifestation, because, well, for some of us, we've gone in the extreme direction of being like, this is just so much whitewashing and spiritual bypassing that I just want nothing to do with it. And for others, it's like, well, if I just manifest hard enough and vibrate higher, then I'll just get all the things that I need. And I must just be like still living in 3D. That's why I haven't manifested my mansion yet. And so what is it that most people are missing about manifestation? Like, what, in your opinion, what are we really talking about here? What is missing, and what should we really be focusing on?
So a couple years ago, this term dropped in for me, and I call it mature manifestation. And what we're missing is this quality of maturity. A lot of manifesting is coming from our ego. It's coming from give me, I want, I have to have, and it's not coming from what's truly meant to be for us. So what I tell people is, if you are trying to manifest something, which is really just bringing something into our physical reality, you're trying to let something happen, and it's not happening, there's usually a few reasons for that. One, it might not be for you. Two, your nervous system may not feel safe enough to let it in. Or three, it's not time for it yet. And there are a lot of laws of the universe that we are operating inside of here. And a lot of manifestation practices just, they leave some of them out. That's why it feels like it's spiritual bypassing, because it is, because there's a lot of nuance to the conversation. It's not as simple as ask, believe, receive, when your nervous system is clenched and compressed and there's no room for anything to land. So it's like, if you want a new couch and you have a small studio and you haven't taken the old couch out yet, where the hell are you going to put the new couch? There's no room for the thing that you say you want, right? You want all this money. Do you know how to manage the money that you have right now? Do you have a system for that? Like, do you know how to be the steward of what you say that you want? There are steps that move us in that direction. And I think that's what's most important to hear, is when you want something, am I the one that is ready and able and responsible enough to let that in? And what would I need to do to align myself with that? We're focused on the thing like 10 steps later, and we need to get present with, where am I right now? And I think that's one of the struggles when a lot of people come to me after they have been coached, mentored, supported by a lot of people, and we end up cleaning up some of these wounds where someone told them it's as simple as doing my strategy and then you get this, and they feel like they've been, sold snake oil, because that wasn't the case. And the reason that isn't the case isn't necessarily because the person's trying to manipulate you or sell you something. They may have actually done that and it worked for them. However, you're not them. And there are a lot of things that need to happen between now and you having what's meant for you that you can't skip over. That's not how this realm works. You got to do the work.
Right. Okay. Well, based on that, what is a small shift? And I know we've spoken about your journal briefly, and maybe you want to go a bit more into that, but anything else? Like, what is the smallest shift someone listening could make today to start or to continue or deepen that process of opening themselves to receiving?
You feel for what your listener, so many places we could go with that. The thing that's coming up is, if you were to meet this moment, could you acknowledge what you have right now? And could you feel for something that you're longing for that's not yet here? And that could be something really specific, like an amount of money or an opportunity, but it could also be a quality of feeling, more peacefulness, more ease, more spaciousness. Who would you need to be to welcome that? How does that version of you think, speak, be and move in the world. Let that future version of you communicate your pathway. That would be a beautiful beginning. Coming from out there, all the noise, to in here where the answers actually live. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Curious
And-
if anything emerged for you there, Nathan, that you would want to.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. I am such an extremist. I really, it's like one of my patterns. So I think, and if I were to say it in a kinder way, I'm very passionate. I get very, very passionate about things, and I do deep dives. And then my challenge in my life has been maintaining any kind of consistent longevity over time. And so, yeah, what's coming up for me sitting with that is really just this invitation to embody more of the things that I share with others, really to be more congruent. And so to give myself the gift of more, stop waiting for me to have enough clients which would mean serving enough people that I would then have enough sustainable income that it feels like, yeah, there's that safety, that sense of, okay, well, now I'm fulfilling my role as provider for my family. And that feels where I want to be. And if I wait for that, instead of first saying, okay, well, when I'm there, what will I be doing? How will I be showing up in that moment? Which is, for me, prioritizing things like my breathwork routine, my kettlebell workouts, my stretches, all these other things that are my journaling, my writing, things that bring me joy intrinsically without, it's not so much about an outward display, it's more about an inward experience. And so then the invitation there is to prioritize all of that now, or at least as much of that now as I can. Because then the rest is kind of a bit easier anyway. I'm not burning myself out trying to bring something in. It's more that I'm offering something from my own experience.
Yes, and as you say that, all of the things you mentioned were free, right? It's free to do breath work. It's free as long as you already have, if you got the kettlebells, unless you're trying to do an expensive gym membership. So it's interesting. Thank you for bringing that up, because I relate to it as well. It's like, I'll get to that when, I'll earn that later. But it's interesting that could be the very pathway that lets you have the thing that you want. It's like, provide for yourself right now in those ways that strengthens your sense of self and being, and brings that power, that momentum online that could then have you making decisions that are authentic and true and moving you in that direction. And you have the time. It's interesting, when we have the time and space, if we don't have all the clients to serve, we've been given time and space to put other things in those spots, and how we use that spaciousness or that time really informs like what will come from that.
Yeah, absolutely. After this call, I'm going to go do just like swing some kettlebells out in the sun, just even for like 5 minutes. I think that would be my commitment to myself, to just enjoy that flow experience. I have one more kind of official question for you, which is around, and we may have covered this earlier, but I just want to give you another opportunity if there's something there. Because for some of us, and for some listening right now, people might be afraid that receiving more means giving less. Basically, like if I receive more, it means I'm taking too much from the world, and it means that I'm actually giving less. And you did speak to it earlier, but I just wanted to see if there's anything else there, if someone still has that bit of niggling, like, yeah, but if I get more, that means that I'm not going to be giving enough, or that, is something there that I wanted to check in about.
Thank you for circling back, because I had something else in that moment and I went in a different direction. So I'll bring it now. Very intuitive. What I wanted to say about that is a core belief that could use some upgrading. So that perspective that there's not enough speaks to, it's coming from it's birthed from scarcity consciousness. It's saying, if I have something, then you don't have it. And I'm going to offer that we can't actually do that. We can't, if something is meant for us both to have it, then we can. And in this realm, it looks like if I take your money, you don't have any, but there's lots of ways to get resources, right? So we're not actually taking from each other, we're pulling from the infinite, cosmos to have what is ours. Now, if you're not in right relationship with your power and you are, like robbing someone's house or taking, but that's not what we're talking about here. And I want you to watch your perspective, because there's of course ways that we can poke holes in anything. I'm talking to people who are ethical, responsible, using their energy consciously to the best of their ability. If you are having what is yours, there will still be what other people can still source what is theirs. There's a card in my messages from Shadow deck, and one of the affirmation or mantras that came through was, when I stand in my spotlight, I'm not taking someone else's light. It's reminding me of that right now. When you have what is meant for you, you become, you used this word earlier, Nathan, you become a mirror for others to remember that it's okay to do that. This is how to do it. This is what it looks like when we do it. And whatever they're meant to have, they can then step into that. It becomes we live as transmissions, reminding one another, walking each other home. So you being poor or broke or not taking and having what's yours isn't really helpful, certainly not to you. And I would add not to anyone else either, because it lacks that reminder. And if you're conscious enough to do this work, it's time to do it and to slowly and truly move through those places so that it becomes available for others who are waking up and becoming conscious to these truths.
You're reminding me of some feedback I had from a client recently. We did a kind of testimonial call after the end of our 3 months together, and she said something that at first when she first said it, I had a bit of a thought of like, and then she continued her sentence. I was reassured. And her first, because she said, Nathan, you were my lighthouse. And she said, by being my lighthouse. And when she first said that, I thought, but doesn't that mean that I'm the one with the light? And she said, you were my lighthouse in such a way that your shining showed me that I could also shine. So that it first lit up the storm and the darkness, so I knew where to go, and then reminded me that I could shine too. And it was like, okay. So when I just heard what you said, it really reminded me of that. I actually have goosebumps now. That's exactly.
Me too.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Truth does that to us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Well, before we part ways, there is a question I love to ask every guest. And that is that when you hear we are already free, what does that bring up for you?
Thank you for reminding me. It feels it lands as with gravity in my core as truth. And I feel grateful to be reminded that as a sovereign fractal of source here having this experience, I may not always feel free, but that doesn't mean that I'm not. Thank you.
And where would you like to direct people? What are your active projects? Anything that's kind of top of heart for you right now that you'd love someone who's listening going, I want to find out more about this phenomenal human. Where should they go next?
Well, my website, kerinola.com, was just rebirthed, and so all of my offerings are there. We've already mentioned the free money date journal that's there. For US-based listeners, I do have a free text community that is there. And then there's 2 offerings I'd like to highlight based on things we talked about today. For someone who wants to do more ongoing exploration with me, my re-membership community is Receptivity Portal. And that's where I do this work all year long in community, because I do find this work in community is deeply healing. And then if you're wanting something more like one-off to understand a pattern or clear a pattern, my body of work, Messages from Shadow, is a really potent opportunity for something like that. And you can find that as well.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I give you, just an opportunity here. Is there anything else that feels incomplete for you? Anything that you would want to share or just bring into the space before we close for today?
Just thank you. It was on my heart. Thank you for being you. Thank you for creating this space for us to have these conversations that are rich, that are deep, that are real. They really matter. And I trust that everyone who heard today will take what they need and move in the world with it.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege. And I'm going to move you off into the green room and say farewell to our listener, and then we'll check in a little after. And thanks again. It's been such a pleasure to have you here, Keri. Thank you. All right, beautiful humans. Thank you so much. Thank you to Keri for just, such a heartfelt, lived experience of the stories that she's sharing. I am sure that you listening and so many of us in the world right now need this information, that it's okay for us to be abundant. It's okay for us to receive what is meant for us as givers and healers and facilitators who just love pouring out into the world even when we empty our own cups. So thank you to Keri for helping us to break free from that scarcity consciousness. Really appreciate that. It's just another reminder that we are all worthy of the love that we want to bring into the world. We also are worthy of that. So please do find Keri at her website, on Instagram, etc. I will share it all in the show notes as always. So just go click those links. Take what resonated today and notice where you might be stuck in giving without receiving, or where you might struggle with receiving and then some part of you goes, oh, this is too much, and finds a way to blow it all up. And I resonate a lot with that. So if you haven't yet, please be a friend of the podcast and leave us a review. I love receiving reviews so much, and it is a huge impact, a positive impact, because it helps others to find these transformative conversations, helps to create ripples of change far beyond what we can see and know. As I'm sure you're aware, what we give energy and attention to grows. So if you would like more of this podcast out there in the world and more people to hear it, please do take action. Go to alreadyfree.me/review or click the link in the show notes. Thank you for being a part of this journey, part of this conscious evolution, revolution, delightful exploration of what it means to be human. To you, my dear listener, my sensitive seeker, conscious misfit, or sacred rebel listening, thank you for being here and daring to question the old stories about giving and receiving. Please remember, we are already free, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Ciao for now.